Well, good afternoon, everybody. I guess we'll call this meeting to order. Eric Lashinsky from City of Annapolis, chairing the BPAG. So at this time, Charlene is going to read the roll call, and if you're here, just let us know. Thanks.
Thanks. Start with you, City of Annapolis.
Here.
Anne Arundel County.
Hi, Tanya Asman, present.
Baltimore City.
I guess that's me for today.
Thanks, Gina. Baltimore County.
Present.
Carroll County was able to make it today. You have Hartford County. Howard County.
Hey, Pat Smith with the Office of Transportation here for Howard County.
Queen Anne's County.
Good afternoon, Steve Cahoon with Queen Anne's County.
Maryland Department of the Environment. Here. Maryland Department of Planning. Maryland Highway Safety Office.
Hi, everybody. Here.
MDOT MTA.
Albert is here.
Wonderful. Thank you. MDOT SHA.
Here.
And MDOT TSO.
Meg Young and it's like Francine Waters both here.
Yes.
Here.
All right. Thank you all. Good to see you, hear you. At this time, we want to do the approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was in March. Those were sent out by Charlene in advance of the meeting, so you all should have had them. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from someone, please?
I'll motion, Ms. Tanya.
Thanks, Tanya. And a second? Someone?
Okay.
I'll take that as a second. Thank you. By a show of yays and nays, let's approve these minutes. Or do you go through? I can't remember. Do you go through one by one, Charlene? I should know this by now.
You can just ask the group to say yay and then.
Okay.
Say nay.
All right. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Okay. Got through the formalities. We have a few presentations today. The first being from Shana Rose from City of Baltimore, Department of Transportation, who's going to share the city's work towards Vision Zero initiatives. Are you sharing the presentation, Charlene? There you go. Magically appears. Well, thank you, Shana, for being here. Take it away.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. So hi, everyone. I'm here today to talk about Baltimore City's Towards Zero initiative, as well as our upcoming Vision Zero program. So I'm a planner with the Baltimore City Department of Transportation. I oversee an initiative of the department called Towards Zero, and we are working to make it Vision Zero. So we're going to talk about all the initiatives going on related to that. Next slide, please. So very briefly, just the agenda for today will be as follows: the state of traffic safety in Baltimore, how the Towards Zero initiative is addressing traffic safety, how the newly established Vision Zero program will meet the challenge of traffic safety, and then maybe we'll have some time at the end for questions, but I think we're kind of packing it in today. So next slide, please. So let's just get into it for a little bit. How is traffic safety in Baltimore? Next slide. It's not the best. I will say, though, over the past 5 years, we have seen some modest declines in overall crashes, including injury crashes. 2020 was kind of an anomaly year because of pandemic travel patterns. We had fewer people on the roads, and so we saw fewer overall crashes compared to 2019. Then we spiked up again in 2021 as people returned to in-person life, and it's been declining since then. Next slide. While overall crashes have gone down, fatalities and serious injuries are kind of going up. Fatalities in 2023 were the lowest they've been in 5 years, but not by much, and serious injury crashes have been steadily increasing. Our lowest in recent years was 2018 with 39 crashes, but we've been hovering between 40 and 50 every year since. By comparison, DC has had 50 fatalities in 2023, which, while being more than us, is an overall slightly lower rate per capita, considering each city's population and the metro area population. And, for comparison, fatal crashes throughout the state have increased by about 16% since 2019, whereas Baltimore City's has decreased 4%. State serious injury crashes have decreased 4%, whereas Baltimore City's serious injury crashes have gone up actually 11%. Next slide, please. And then what about pedestrians? So we've improved a little bit since 2019, but we've been increasing since 2020. Next slide, please. And actually, our non-motorist fatalities are increasing each year. 2023 was actually the first year that our total non-motorist fatalities exceeded motorist fatalities. Or sorry. Yes, okay. Next slide. So when we look at where these serious incidents are occurring, patterns do emerge. This is a map of all serious injury and fatal crashes from 2019 to 2023. We can pretty clearly see North Ave, particularly in the area around the Metro stop, but also in the area around Harford Road. We see Pennsylvania Ave, Edmondson, Franklin, and Mulberry, Orleans, but also other east-west roads adjacent to it, Bel Air. I mean, I could just name a bunch of roads. It's a lot of them. So we use this map at Towards Zero to influence project selection for major streetscape projects, red light camera locations, and other quick build type work. Next slide, please. So I've gone over a little bit what drives the Towards Zero program, but what do we actually do? Next slide. The Towards Zero initiative was founded in 2018 under then Mayor Pugh. Initially, it was mainly a communications campaign aimed at influencing driver behavior. But we have turned the initiative into more of a small infrastructure program, as education alone, as we found out, doesn't really influence behavior. So we strategize locations for our quick build program using crash data. At first, we did this through our high crash reduction report back in 2021, where we identified top 10 lists for highest crash intersections and corridors. We used that report to strategize improvements at 4 locations, and 2 of which have been implemented so far. In 2022, we also wrote a strategic highway safety plan, which made us eligible for significant state safety funding through the Highway Safety Improvement Plan. For the past 3 years, we've gotten funding from the state to improve pedestrian crossings at high crash intersections that overlap with our trails or other major pedestrian desire lines. And then this year, under HSIP, we applied for construction funding to build our Washington Street cycle track and establish a safe routes to school coordinator position. All of this is to say that your local SHSP can be a vehicle for funding needed for pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. Next slide. Which brings me to my next point. In the Towards Zero program in Baltimore, our primary objective is to deliver needed complete streets infrastructure in the locations that need it the most. Complete streets infrastructure is by and far the best thing that a jurisdiction can do for non-motorist and motorist safety. According to national studies, protected bike lanes rank as one of the best treatments you can do to a road for safety, with estimates of crash reductions by about half. Safe cycling infrastructure also is shown to increase the amount of cyclists on the road, which also forces drivers to be more conscientious. There was a study that came out in 2019 that looked at 13 years of data in 12 cities and found that roadway fatalities are inversely correlated with increases in high quality bike infrastructure and associated increases in bike commuters. And we're seeing that in Baltimore. Everywhere we've installed protected bike lanes, we've seen some level of crash reduction ranging from minor to major. And considering our annual fatalities and serious injuries can otherwise be considered increasing citywide, I think it's a pretty significant finding. Obviously, a protected bike lane is not going to be an appropriate treatment in every context, and there are lots of other complete streets interventions that have good safety outcomes. Next, please. So these days in the Towards Zero program, we're not really doing top 10 lists anymore. Rather, we're identifying whole areas where we can do systemic traffic safety interventions. So this year, we've identified 2 major areas, one in the east and one in the west. And we are going to be strategizing improvements on the major corridors there, but then also neighborhood traffic calming on the adjacent neighborhood streets to get more of that systemic improvement. So this year, we're working in 8 neighborhoods. These neighborhoods are Union Square, Boyd Booth, Carrollton Ridge, Mount Clair, and then in the east, Elwood Park, McElderry Park, Milton Montford, and Madison East End. Next slide, please. So this is just illustrating kind of the process that we've been going through. The first step in our process was selecting locations for improvement. That was, yeah. So we did this through a combination of resident listening sessions as well as our own data analysis. For the data analysis, we looked at walk sheds. That's the first map. Walk sheds around key destinations, bus stops, 311 requests, and micromobility ridership. And then for the listening sessions, we did a combination of community meetings and neighborhood walk audits. And then, of course, we also looked at crash data. So we synthesized all of that to create a scoring methodology to rank locations. Next slide. And the result is the following locations. This is in West Baltimore. So we are going to be focusing our major design improvements on Pratt Street and Monroe Street, which kind of rose to the top in terms of both safety needs as well as neighborhood concerns. And then we're also going to be strategizing mostly speed humps on adjacent neighborhood roads, shown as the orange or yellow roads. Next slide. And then in East Baltimore, we identified Madison Street and Jefferson Street, as well as a portion of Fayette Street for the design corridors, and then again, our adjacent like speed hump neighborhood traffic calming corridors. Orleans also rose to the top as a top neighborhood concern, but we actually are already doing a Orleans streetscape project that should begin this summer or fall. Next slide. So now that we have identified locations, our next step is going to be creating alternative concepts for our design corridors. Currently, we're running a survey for all the design corridors to get a sense of neighbors' transportation priorities. We are looking to see what sort of preferences that communities as a whole have, and then we'll try and fit designs to those preferences, but also not sacrificing safety in the process. While we're doing the transportation priority survey, we're also spreading awareness of the benefits of different types of options so that way people can have information as they go into those surveys. So over the next few months, we're going to be doing pop-ups, tabling in all of our communities, and we'll also attend community meetings to discuss the benefits and trade-offs of different design options. Towards the end of the summer or early fall, we'll take the results of the survey and match them to the final concepts. The plan is to then complete engineering of the designs in the fall or early winter, and our very ambitious goal is to construct our quick build projects next summer, though it might realistically be the following year. So all in all, we're aiming for the Towards Zero quick build projects to be planned, designed, and constructed in 2 years, though probably realistically 3 years. Year 1 being planning and design, and then year 2 hopefully being construction, though it can sometimes take longer depending on the status of our construction contracts. So compared to other processes at DOT, this is pretty fast. But when you're a community that's under constant threat of traffic violence, is it fast enough? Next slide. So that brings us to Vision Zero. Baltimore is currently in the development stage of a Vision Zero program. We won a planning grant from Safe Streets for All back in 2022 to make an action plan, and we're using this opportunity to formalize and expand our work in the Towards Zero program as a more officially recognized and adopted city program. Now, you may be wondering, Towards Zero, Vision Zero, what's really the difference besides a branding change? Next slide. So, for one, Vision Zero means committing to a date to end traffic deaths and serious injuries. Rather than working towards a more general goal of improving safety, committing to a date publicly means being held accountable to that date. And this will mean more publicity of our stats and interventions, and therefore more engagement with the public on these issues. We hope that bringing this conversation more into the public eye will result in stronger advocacy for change, which in turn emboldens us to make the changes needed to our roadways. A major challenge of the Towards Zero program is that we don't have a formally adopted way of getting essential safety projects in the ground as soon as we know that they are needed. Despite being quick-built projects, Towards Zero projects follow the project development requirements of all other Baltimore DOT projects, which means that they can have a long timeline. That long timeline can mean that more people get injured or killed while we're in project development. There is a need for the Towards Zero projects to be nimbler, allowing for rapid implementation of the strongest safety solutions as a pilot, with the bulk of the analysis engagement occurring afterwards rather than before, allowing for project iteration. Our Vision Zero action plan will establish a sanctioned and expedited project process. Other challenges include capacity. For such a hefty goal of eliminating traffic fatalities, we're a pretty small program with a staff of about half of my time and a modest budget. Now, I definitely have lots of informal and willing collaborators, but there aren't really people that are officially dedicated to this initiative. So a Vision Zero program will establish baseline program staff, partnerships, and steady annual funding. One thing that I didn't write on the slide is project selection and evaluation. So we currently use crash data to select Towards Zero projects, but we don't have an officially adopted prioritization model. It's mostly me just like looking at RAP and saying, okay, these seem to be the areas that I think we should focus on. So our Vision Zero program will adopt and prioritize a high injury network, and then we at DOT will use it to select projects for all of our programs. Additionally, we don't really have a formalized way of evaluating the safety efficacy of projects. Under Vision Zero, we will adopt mechanisms for evaluating safety efficacy of all DOT projects on a much shorter timeline than simply using crash data would allow. And then finally, there's pretty poor understanding in the public around what actually improves roadway safety. We know that complete streets treatments work, but they're not always accepted in communities for aesthetic reasons or biases based on misinformation, which makes them harder to implement. So our Vision Zero program will establish a communications and programming strategy to expand awareness and acceptance of, and hopefully excitement for, the interventions that are proven to improve safety. Next slide. So let's get into it. Our action plan will be rooted in the safe systems approach, which means that the interaction between a variety of separate components decides whether someone survives a crash. Our action plan will include components that a city government can influence, which to some extent is safer people, safer roads, and safer speeds. The majority of our action plan will focus on how to create safer roads and how to create safer people, and then how those two pieces can be complementary and mutually reinforcing to produce safer speeds. And then we'll also have some sections around post-crash care and safer vehicles in our policy section. Next slide, please. The analysis section of our action plan will have 4 major components. So first, obviously, high injury network. We'll use crash data to identify the network of corridors that contributes the most to our current roadway behavior paradigm. We'll also overlay the HIN with land use and demographics to identify highest risk areas based on the presence of vulnerable populations. Safety data collection. So in this section, We plan to gather data beyond just crash data on our high entry network to evaluate safety issues. We're collecting data through deployed LiDAR devices and a community input survey on near misses. We'll have a cost and health burden analysis. So in this section, we plan to evaluate how much we think crashes are costing the city, with the goal of showcasing the comparison between how much we're spending to maintain the status quo versus how much we might spend to solve issues. We'll also want to look at how crashes are affecting our healthcare system through ambulance availability and ER wait times. And then finally, we'll have a section on just public health benefits of complete streets. The purpose of this section really is going to be to just bring people in to this conversation that maybe don't otherwise think about transportation. And for all these sections, we're partnering with area universities, including the University of Maryland, Morgan State, and Johns Hopkins. Next slide. You may have heard that we are currently running our near miss community survey. So here's just a little sneak peek of what we have gotten so far. So we have received over 1,300 responses. It's mainly in locations that are associated with higher affluence and higher engagement. So we're going to be working to expand the reach of this survey, especially now that the weather is nicer. Even still, there's definitely a lot that can be gleaned from what we have so far. So most logs involved cars to some extent, unsurprisingly, and most people logged near misses of pedestrians with cars. And it seems that the people who logged these experiences are experiencing the near misses quite often. Next slide. A lot of the people who logged mostly walk and drive for their transportation modes. Under half were frequent bikers, so it's not as though we're just getting the entire bike community to monopolize this survey. Speeding and distracted drivers seem to be the #1 culprit, followed by drivers turning without looking and running red lights. We see some people who maybe would otherwise use different travel modes at the location where they logged, but refrained due to safety concerns. So that's a really interesting one. So we're collecting this data. We're going to keep it running, the survey running probably through the summer. And we plan to use it to both validate our high injury network and help to prioritize the locations that we're going to be weighting the highest. So we definitely want lots more people to log, and yeah, we're going to be doing more engagement to get more logs. Next, please. So the next section of our plan will be the communication strategy. From what we understand of case studies nationally, driving behavior is influenced mostly by the characteristics of the roadway infrastructure and surrounding land use. So these are things that psychologically send drivers subconscious messages of how fast they're supposed to go in the context of their surroundings. So our goal for the communications campaign is to create our goal overall for the program is to create surroundings that send a different message. Communication strategy aims to foster public that understands how changing our surroundings can improve safety and health outcomes. So we're really looking to better inform the public so that they are empowered to voice their support, voice more support for the changes that are needed. Also, we'll be looking to share information and create more programs that enable more people to walk, bike, scoot, and take transit because there is safety in numbers on our streets. And having more people try new modes of travel fosters more respect between the travel modes. Next, please. So there are lots of people in the public who already get it and want more inclusive infrastructure. Those people will not be our target audience for this campaign, and neither will the naysayers. We're looking to find the people in our city who are unfamiliar with complete streets, but in general care about safety and other related things like climate change, public health, access to education, employment, and other sort of related topics. So we're going to find these people using the outcomes of the Baltimore area survey that JHU 21st Century Cities administers each year. Last year, we added some transportation safety questions to the survey, and that will help us find the right cross sections. So we're going to do focus groups with our target audience and test various messaging and like programming strategies aimed at generating understanding and support for safety improvements. To create the messaging and the strategies, we're going to collaborate with local artists, comedians, and graphic designers by recruiting them in a brain trust, which will be paid. And actually the advertisement for that should be going out probably within the next week. So ultimately, the idea is to produce a collection of content and strategies that can be used in a public campaign, including branding for the Vision Zero program. Next, please. Then finally, there will be a policy section for how the program should be set up, administered, and governed. We're going to develop this section by researching what is working in other cities and then conducting interviews with staff to determine where we have opportunity to create some better collaborations. This is also the section where we can look at additional opportunities for other agencies to contribute towards the Vision Zero goal, such as, health department, for instance, stop the bleed trainings, in areas on the HIN so that if people are hit, they have better chance of survival. Something like that. Everything's going to be explored. Next slide, please. And then everything that we are doing is going to have opportunities for the public to weigh in and provide feedback. So right now, the main opportunity for feedback is the near miss map. But then coming down the line, we're going to be vetting our high injury network through community pop-ups, probably in early fall. And then we also plan to pilot some of the possible engagement strategies using existing DOT projects. And towards the end of the year, we plan to host maybe 2 safety summits to spotlight and vet all of our recommendations, as well as galvanize the public around this effort. Next slide, please. All right, so here's the timeline. Right now, we're late spring 2025, and so we're just about ready to recruit our brain trust for our communication strategy. We're also, this is actually a little bit inaccurate. Our pop-ups will probably not start until the summer. They'll still mostly be focused around getting more near miss logs, and then we'll have different pop-ups in the fall around vetting our high injury network. Our high injury network is due to be completed probably at the end of June. That's what we're hoping for. So hopefully we can start vetting it maybe in July or August. Next slide, please. So just next slide, actually. So you can stay up to date on all of our projects on our websites. We have our Towards Zero Quick Build project and our Vision Zero Action Plan project. And I also have a link to the near miss survey. And if you live in or frequent Baltimore City at all, I really encourage you to take that survey. Next slide. And finally, just a little preview of what's to come. We actually also won a second Safe Streets for All grant the following year. This was a $10 million grant under the demonstration program to pilot some of the recommendations of our Vision Zero Action Plan. We just got word that this grant should be going forward. So we're very hopeful about it. And the plan is to do a range of projects and programs that test the theory of our action plan. So we're going to do a 1-year-long Complete Streets campaign. We're doing quick build Complete Streets infrastructure on a high energy network, and also a Ciclovia program on the Baltimore Greenway Trails network. So that's all I've got for today, but I know we're probably a little over. So I'm happy to take a few questions if anyone has any.
That's really impressive. Thanks, Shayna, for all of the context on what you all are doing. We're working on a action plan here in Annapolis too, so it was interesting to see the way you've framed it and the partners you've brought in, and just how broadly you're looking at the impacts of transportation safety. I don't have any immediate questions. So it looks like Ellen has raised her hand. Go ahead, Ellen.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm a resident of Baltimore City, and I am obsessed with data. So let's go all the way back to the beginning about how Baltimore has increased or decreased in fatal collisions or accidents or whatever you want to call these things. I have been obsessed with the state highway administrations or Maryland state troopers, I can't remember what, the map that shows all the crashes and fatalities that I believe the Baltimore Metro Council also has on their website. As I've been following along for 2025, I've noticed a lot of the data is really bad. It's incorrect, it's wrong. Not only that, but the data provided on that map is very limited, and I really can't tell what's going on. So I've taken my effort to contact every single one of my state delegates, my senator, and also the head of the Maryland State Troopers, saying, "Hey, what's going on with all of this?" And I haven't gotten any response at all. So first of all, I just want to make everybody aware there are lots of problems with that data. It's not correct at all. Second of all, are we going to do anything on the DOT's end, on the city DOT's end, to demand that they provide better data and more correct data?
So I'll comment a little bit, though DOT is not the data owner, so I can't really speak completely to it. We know that the data has issues. What we have been told is that it usually takes about 9 months after the previous year ends for the data to be finalized. And so we pretty much just don't even look at 2024 and 2025 data, knowing that that data is just not complete yet and has a lot of like kinks to be worked out. I think the state is improving their transparency and quickness when it comes to, finalizing that data faster. And I can't really speak to other efforts around that, but I want to acknowledge that we understand there's issue with the data and we're just trying to work around it.
Okay, well, just note, right now the data says Baltimore City has had 8 traffic fatalities. That is wrong. The real number is 6. They got 2 on there that were not fatalities.
Yeah, and that's why we don't even look at 2025 data. Like we won't look at it until probably midway through 2026.
All right, well, thank you for sharing that, Ellen and Shayna, for the response. Tanya, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. Great work, Shayna. And I think Meg also put it in the chat about so you are not a 100% full-time Vision Zero dedicated staff member. You're about half-time?
I approximated that. We at Baltimore City all wear a lot of hats, and so we all do a lot of different things.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, same. So I'm pretty impressed with the level of detail that you've gone into. And I wanted to comment, I'm particularly interested in that public input program, I guess, that you get from, the near misses. And I just wanted to say to the group and to BMC that I think that would be a really neat thing for them to roll out for the entire region and build upon what Baltimore has done so that we can all kind of benefit from it.
That's actually a good point, Tanya. That's a suggestion we've gotten from Bike Hartford, and that's something I meant to bring up to BPAG, so I'm glad you brought it up today, but I'll follow up with an email and get your guys' feedback, but we want to see if that would be something that you would find useful for BMC to maybe have a platform where people could report near misses. We want to, make sure we're not just collecting data that doesn't do anything though. So we kind of want to think about how that data could be used most successfully. So we can keep that conversation going, or you can chime in now if you think that would be helpful. And of course, we'll talk with Shayna about how they're doing it with the city since they've been so successful in getting that information.
Okay, thanks.
Shayna, I actually had a kind of specific question. I was actually sharing this with Charlene earlier. Here at City of Annapolis, we don't really have a prioritization methodology for sidewalks. And I was curious, I think you referenced it in your presentation, that you're kind of working on a prioritization matrix in general for complete streets perhaps, but does City of Baltimore have something specific to sidewalks that you use?
I think we use like a measure of sidewalk quality. But through our high injury network, we'll at least have, the roads that really need increased pedestrian safety interventions, and those that could also potentially serve as, an opportunity for sidewalk expansion.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, we're probably just going to be looking at what other places do on that front. Ultimately, safety is the primary criteria, but other factors will probably play into that. Well, I'm good on questions. Any other questions before we move on? Really appreciate it. Very impressive work in my view, and it's great to see Baltimore leading on this front. So,
Thank you.
being here. All right. Well, we're gonna move on to the next presentation from Shane Sarver at M.SHA, who's going to be talking about the Pedestrian Safety Action Plan corridors. Thank you for being here, Shane.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
My name is Shane Sarver. I'm a bicycle and pedestrian planner at SHA in the Office of Planning and Preliminary Engineering. I want to provide an update on the Pedestrian Safety Action Plan, or PSAP, implementation today. You can go to the next slide. So the Pedestrian Safety Action Plan, PSAP, is a data-driven process. This plan was released in 2023, and where the first step was to identify areas of need around the state, which I know this map is a little bit small, but it's the purple areas on this map. We identified these through public input, non-fatal VRU crash density, serious VRU crash density, and fatal VRU crash density. STOAs, which are short trip opportunity areas, which account for schools, transit, zero car households, population and employment density. And we also looked at equity. Once these areas of needs were identified, we prioritized corridors within them using a weighted process using this data, so crash data, equity, destinations and connections, STOAs, to identify priority corridors. You can see on this map, there's priority corridors pretty much everywhere in the state. And we just looked at state roads for this. This is not local roads. You can go to the next slide. So putting this plan into action, using the data-driven process to identify the priority corridors, we have now selected corridors to implement this. So PSAP projects are data-driven, as I already discussed. They're safety-focused, so the primary focus is reducing severe crashes for VRUs, for vulnerable road users. In order to implement these quickly, relatively quickly, we are looking at minimal impact to right-of-way and utilities. So we're trying to avoid anything that will slow things down, any sort of cumbersome permitting or acquisition processes. They're focused in scope, so they're responding to urgent needs with limited funds, and they're near term. So talking 3 to 5 year processes from corridor identification to implementation to construction. Next slide. These are the first 5 slides, PSAP corridors leading the way. I'm going to go through these in a little bit more detail. These were announced in December of 2023. Of these, Actually, you can go to the next slide. So Maryland 650, this will be the first corridor that's completed. It will be fully constructed by October 2026. This is located in Prince George's and Montgomery counties. We're looking at things like widened sidewalks, curb extensions, ADA upgrades, continuous lighting, and removal of channelized right turn lanes. And this will be the first project completed. It's a little bit ahead of the other 5. Next slide. Maryland 150 in Baltimore County. This is expected to reach final design in October 2026 and be constructed sometime 12 to 18 months after that. Looking at, again, improved sidewalks, ADA upgrades, no turn on red restrictions, removing channelized right turn lanes, new mid-block crossings, which may be RRFBs or PHBs, still working out those details. Next slide. Maryland 410 in Prince George's County. This is also expected to reach final design October 2026. This project is a little bit more extensive than the others. We're looking at a road reconfiguration to add protected bike lanes and bus lanes. And just actually, all of these corridors have had public meetings presenting these concepts to the public, generally very well received. These are projects in areas that have known safety problems, and the public has generally been very receptive to proposed changes. Next slide. Maryland 2 in Glen Burnie. This project is also expected to reach final design October 2026. And this is also a fairly extensive project. We have a lot of right-of-way to work with in this area. So we're looking at road reconfiguration, adding shared use paths, additional connections to the BNA trail, removing channelized right turn lanes and slip lanes, new crossings or signals. Generally pretty extensive. Next slide. And then US 1 in Howard County. This corridor was also part of last year's Complete Streets Leadership Academy, which was a Complete Streets quick build project. That project piloted a shared use path, taking a travel lane to install a shared use path. Was very successful. So although that had to be removed as it was a temporary quick build, that shared use path is included in the PSAP plan. So it will be, when this goes to construction, it will include that shared use path. And this is also expected final design October 2026. Next slide. So in addition to those first 5, we've also started working on around 2 corridors. These are currently working on initial concepts. We held, for each of these meetings, we held an initial public informational workshop with the purpose of gathering community feedback. We didn't present any concepts or anything like that. It was strictly gathering feedback. And that's part of a kind of enhanced public involvement that we're trying to do for PSAP corridors. So those meetings were just a roll map and asking for feedback. Generally well attended. A lot of people had a lot of concerns about the corridors. And so we've taken all that feedback and we're developing concepts now. We are planning on going back later this year or early next year to present those concepts. And these corridors will be about a year and a half behind the round 1 corridors. So we'd be looking at final design in 2027. And the first 5 corridors were fairly easy to select. They were just the highest scoring corridors around the state. These 8, as we were selecting them, we looked at their PSAP score. So these are all still very high scoring. The the PSAT methodology allows for 27 points total, with 27 being the most urgently in need of improvement. All of these had at least a score of 20. So we looked at the score. We wanted geographic diversity, so we're not concentrating everything in one area, but we're looking around the state. So we have Ocean City on this list. We have Hagerstown, Harford County, Prince George's County. We also looked at local priorities, and we looked at the vulnerable road user assessment, which I'll talk a little bit more about a little bit later. Next slide. District safety project corridors. These are corridors that were selected through the prioritization process, but they are being implemented by our individual SHA district offices rather than implemented from headquarters. There's 3 in Baltimore County and 1 in Montgomery County, 1 in Prince George's County. The Maryland 124 and Maryland 414 are on a similar schedule to the round 1 projects, so they would be looking at final design October 2026 around that time. And the 3 projects in Baltimore County are on a similar schedule to the round 2 projects, so they're about a year behind that. Next slide. Vulnerable road user assessment projects. So the vulnerable road user assessment is a requirement under the IIJA, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. It's included as part of the Strategic Highway Safety Plan. It's required to be updated every 5 years. It uses the same methodology as the PSAP, but rather than prioritizing statewide, it prioritizes by SHA district, and also Baltimore City is included, and it looks at state and local roads, not just state roads. So these projects are on a much quicker timeline than PSAP corridors. They're looking at smaller improvements that can be implemented very quickly. So intersection improvements rather than road diets, for example. And the vulnerable road user assessment is currently being updated as part of the Strategic Highway Safety Plan. So we will, I mentioned that we use that assessment as part of corridor selection. So we will, we're waiting to select to go into round 3 until we have that data, just to see what, if anything, has changed. Next slide. And I'm happy to take any questions. Anybody has any?
Thank you, Shane. Really great to see this moving forward, all these corridors, and seeing MDOT-SHA leading on this stuff. Can't wait until our priority corridor in Annapolis is on the list. Every chance I get, I mention Maryland 450 at the edge of the city, which connects the city to Anne Arundel County, and it's probably the worst gateway corridor into the capital city from a safety perspective. So just had to put that shameless plug in there.
Definitely something we are aware of.
Thank you. Chris, you have your hand up from Howard County.
Hi, thanks, Eric. Thanks, Shane. I just wanted to ask about funding, Shane, for the PSAP projects. I mean, I know that MDOT has had some challenges recently with funding, and it's going to be a rough year or two, at least. Do we feel pretty good about the funding for the PSAP projects? Is that unaffected by other cuts and other project holds?
So far, yes, feeling positive. The 5 PSAP corridors leading the way are all funded through construction, as are the district safety projects, although I'm not 100% sure on that. The round 2 are right now funded through design, but everything that I've heard, everything that the secretary has said, this is a priority pedestrian safety and vulnerable road user safety is a priority for this administration. So I can't say 100% sure that these are all good forever, but we're pretty comfortable with them.
Yeah, let's hope it stays that way. So thanks for
Yeah.
the response.
Looks like Ellen has her hand up. Ellen Worthing.
Yes, hi. I know I just said that I'm from Baltimore City, but I have to go take care of an elderly relative once a month in Montgomery County. So I find this interesting about how you're going after these pedestrian pathways or a vulnerable road, something or other. I am very focused on Maryland 355, which is in Montgomery County. It's Rockville Pike, Hungerford Drive. It's got a bunch of other names. It is the most dangerous road I have ever seen. And you'll find very few pedestrian users because the sidewalks are only 3 feet wide and they're right up against the road where the speed limits can be anywhere from 35 to 45 miles per hour. So I kind of am interested about what kind of criteria you used to determine which roadway should get attention and which shouldn't. It's very difficult in Montgomery County to get from point A to point B, especially along that roadway. And that is probably why there aren't that many pedestrians. So can you talk a little bit about what criteria you use to come up with these 10 roadways that need attention?
Sure. The biggest priority we use is crash data. So fatal crashes, serious crashes, and non-fatal crashes for vulnerable road users, or non-motorists, however you want to say that. That is the major thing that we look at. So, and there are a lot of dangerous roads in the state. We are limited in how many we can improve at once. So those first 5 corridors that I talked about, those are the highest scoring corridors. So they are the ones that are the most dangerous for pedestrians and bicyclists. And we are addressing those first and working our way down from there.
I think you ought to review your criteria on the roadways that people would use, the pedestrian pathways they would use if they could. So you have to look at that as well. And
Yeah,
I know
it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And I think that's one of the reasons that when the PSAP was done, we looked at equity, because equity areas have a much higher, and also Stowe is, these are areas that have a much higher rate of people who don't have cars, which can't afford cars. So they're much more likely to walk or use a bicycle, which is why outside of crashes, when the PSAP was done originally, equity was such a major component of that. I'm not sure going forward with the way the federal government is now, whether we'll be able to use equity still, but the PSAP was done before the current administration, so it uses equity.
okay.
Good questions. Shane, do you know if there's a plan to do periodic updates of the PSAP? You may have mentioned it. I just couldn't remember. I know there was a huge undertaking to get the first PSAP done for the state, but is there a plan to kind of do periodic updates?
Yes, not a very detailed plan yet. We do plan to update it, potentially in sync with the vulnerable road user assessment, because they use the same data. The vulnerable road user assessment is being updated this year, which means potentially we could look at next year for the PSAP. And the vulnerable road user assessment is every 5 years, I believe, when the strategic highway safety plan is updated. So we do plan to update. We don't really have a formal plan for that yet, though.
Okay. I actually have one more question. For the projects that are being led by the districts, were those primarily attributed to the districts being more those particular districts being more proactive in wanting to lead those projects, or is it just a matter of efficiency and resources that the state couldn't at this, headquarters could not lead everything?
A little bit of both. Those were selected around the same time that the first 5, the corridors leading the way, were selected, and looking at internal resources and just figuring out the best way to implement, ended up with some of those corridors being district led, some being headquarters led. The 8 round 2 are all headquarters led, with obviously heavy involvement from the districts.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Looks like we have no other questions at this point. So thank you, Shane, for that update. Really appreciate you being here. The last presentation for the meeting is on Bike to Work Week, which we just had last week. We have Miriam from BMC here. Thank you. Take it away.
Hey everybody, this is Miriam, multimodal planner here at BMC, and I'm here to present an update on Bike to Work 2025, which just took place last week, May 12th to 18th. Next slide, please. Our registration this year at the end of the week totaled 1,660, with representation from each county. Next slide, please. This is a little bit of a comparison between the last 5 years. In 2020, registration was at an all-time low at 800, the mid 800s. Starting again from 2021, we see a growth and then stagnation of registration numbers over the last few years, between 1,600 and 1,800, all of those years. Next slide, please. We also segmented registrations by county by year to take a look at those numbers. And we see that there's been an increase in Baltimore City yearly, and the other counties, some have risen and fallen, some have risen. No clear pattern there on the other counties. Next slide, please. We also looked at how many years registrants have participated. The majority of them have joined Bike to Work Week since COVID-19, since 2021. We'll see a large percentage. This is their first year. We have a lot of 2 to 4 years and 5 to 7 years. And then 8% are the really dedicated crew that have participated for over 10 years. So we're glad to see that too. Next slide, please. Another question we ask at registration is commute time. So as we can see, there's a lot of registrants who have an under 20-minute commute, on the ground. Also hearing from a lot of people do work from home who register for Bike to Work Week. Our subtitle is Bike Anywhere, so that's all right as well. If they take a bike ride during that day, they go to a pit stop, pick up a shirt, but they don't actually commute to work by bike, given how many people work from home. We also have a lot of registrants who are retired, who don't go to work at all, but still want to come out and support Bike to Work Week. On the far end of the scale, we have 80 people who signed up who have a above-hour commute. So, some really long rides for them. Next slide, please. This year, we advertised in a few different places, all digitally, all online. We also asked, put out the word in newsletters. We put out the word to the community and asked groups to share it directly, but these are the paid advertisements. And if you want to learn more about this, I can connect you to our community engagement team. Next slide, please. This year we had 21 celebratory events in the region, and 18 bike store partner t-shirt pickup locations. The county with the most pickup locations was Anne Arundel, which had 6 bike stores participate. We're always looking for more partners and more events each year. So if you have any ideas for next year about wanting to host an event, or you know a bike shop that didn't participate this year but you think would be a good place for us to partner with, you can help make a connection there. We do want to spread out more. This year, there was not an event in Carroll County, for example, and we didn't have any bike store in Harford County that we partnered with. So those are some gaps that we want to fill for next year. Next slide, please. These are just some photos. Thank you to everybody who came out, who partnered. I know a lot of people on this call I saw around at the different stops as well. Next slide, please. Just some more photos. And we're about to send out soon a post-engagement survey for Bike to Work Week, where people who registered can share their thoughts on how they thought the process went and what can be better for next year. Next slide, please. And you can contact me for more information at my email, and I'll forward any questions I can answer to the rest of the Bike to Work Week team. Thank you. Just a short update. Any questions or anything?
Thanks, Miriam. Yeah, the one in Annapolis I thought went great, and it was a good turnout. Although I do tend to refer to it as the annual meeting of the strong and fearless bike community. So I look forward to when more of the other categories of cyclists are participating, when we have better mobility corridors in our region, our area here particularly. So yeah, thanks for all the work that BMC does on this.
Yeah, thank you. I saw you there, right?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, thanks for making it to this event. Meg has her hand up. Go ahead, Meg.
Yeah, thanks. Another great Bike to Work Week in the books. Thank you to the BMC team, as always, for coordinating all the efforts here in the Baltimore region. I just wanted to add that we've rescheduled one of our events, so we're not quite done celebrating yet at MDOT.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, so Eric mentioned all ages and abilities. That is what we're going for with we're calling it now our Bike Month finale. I wanted to put the full blurb in the chat, but my computer's really fighting me right now. But we've rescheduled an event that was supposed to be May 13th to be on May 27th. So if you want to join MDOT headquarters, we are doing a ride from 12 to 1:30. Please try to ride by 11:45 so we can, I'll make sure our bikes are ready to go. But we're going to ride the BWI trail, still the only hiker biker trail around the airport in the entire nation. We're going to ride it to Lindale Middle School and get a behind the scene tour of the bicycle traffic garden that they have there, which is really cool and honors one of their former students, Mo Gaba. So we'll hear from the principal about how they use it, and how to really teach cycling safety from a young age. So again, that's Tuesday, May 27th. Rollout is at noon, and we expect to be back by 1:30. It's only going to be a little over 5 miles round trip, but we're going to stop and look at that traffic garden. So I'll put some of the details in the chat. But really excited that we're still going to get that ride in. So you're all invited.
Thanks for sharing that. Well, this week, Bike to Work Week, we had a lot of rain. A couple of events had to cancel, but mostly it went on as planned.
I might say that could be the reason why we didn't have quite as many registrations as years past, because oftentimes people, see the pit stop or come to an event and sign up on the spot. So I wouldn't knock us considering the weather.
That's true.
Yeah, definite possibility. Thanks, Meg, for sharing that. And yeah, I know that the Lindale bike park was a big project of our Bike AAA advocacy group in Anne Arundel County. So
Yep. So not credit them. John's going to be there too.
yeah,
John Corn. Yep.
they're very involved in our Bike to Week work here. So yeah, well, seeing no other comments for this, thank you again, Miriam, and we're at the end of our meeting, where the last part where we do our roundtable discussion. We just go around through each representative and share what's going on in our neck of the region. So I will start first with Save Annapolis, and my colleague Will Rao is also here. He can share anything else that he's working on, but I'll just give my usual sharing of the various capital projects we're working on, trail projects that are all trying to move forward as quickly as possible. Our West East Express, we're hoping to break ground in the fall. So that's really the most significant one, is federal funding that is still in place as I knock on wood laminate here. We have our Hilltop Lane Connector is another project that will hopefully break ground this summer. And that's a very short segment connecting two existing bike corridors. Well, but there was a bike fatality, bicyclist fatality 2 years ago. So that's a pretty high priority for us. We're actually working on a Safe Streets for All action plan I mentioned earlier, trying to get an RFP out for that in the next month. It's a bit overdue, but that'll be, I think, the city's first ever citywide mobility action plan. Hard to believe. And we'll address a lot of the same stuff that you heard from in Baltimore City. I think that's the primary update from my end. Anything on your end, Will?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Just wanted to follow up also with Bike to Work Week. It was a pretty awesome event. I agree with Meg that a lot of it had to do with the weather and kind of the unpredictable nature of the storm that was coming through and had been through. But we had good turnout, and it was a nice event. We also partnered on an Earth Day event earlier in the month at our city dock area, market house area that was pretty well attended. It was a nice sunny day, and we did a Annapolis Kick Gas event that featured EV, like a showcase of our electric bus and a few other things. And I took the opportunity to take our three-wheel assisted bike out and let people take rides on it, because we're trying to encourage those with limited mobility as well as seniors to utilize our trail systems as well and to be able to get around town. And similar to what the earlier presentation was about, I attended a conference in Utah on zero fatalities. And there was quite a bit of conversation and discussion about walk audits, as well as surveys to assess what someone said earlier also, which was, what is the general attitude and expectations and perceptions of those who live in the city that they have about the safety and the ability for them to, to utilize various modes of transportation to get around the city. So we're looking forward to that. We have an already drafted survey that'll be going out soon. And because it is Bike Week, Bike to Work Week, what we've done is also arranged a bike safety workshop that's going to be taking place this week, and a few other events. So thank you for the time that you all have given.
All right, thank you, Will. Yeah, last thing I just want to add, piggybacking on what Will was saying, if anybody comes to the city dock area of Annapolis, you'll see our city dock project is sort of slowly taking shape. Work has started, and that's a pretty major bike pedestrian initiative. What I'd say is we're removing parking lots from our waterfront area, and that's going to become a major park area. And so I'd say indicative of the kind of things we're trying to do here in Annapolis, transitioning mobility options. So, all right, Anne Arundel County, Tanya. We cannot hear you, unfortunately.
Oh, I was
All right.
unmuted the whole time. I was furiously trying to find the mute button, but I was already unmuted. Okay, so the biggest news ever, the WBNA trail over the Patuxent River Bridge is open and operational as of Bike to Work Day, Friday. They made an announcement. So that's a huge, 25-year project that's been going on. I think they're going to have a ribbon cutting in the future, so stay tuned for that. We'd love to have everybody out and participating, showing massive numbers going across the bridge. I hope to, Charlene, set up some counters now that it's open, because I think we counted there a couple years back or near there, and I really want to see after it's been operational for a little bit, how the numbers go up.
That sounds great. Yeah, we'll be in touch about that.
Okay. Some of the other trail information, again, those are, Rec and Parks projects, but what I can tell you that I know about is the Broadneck Trail is under construction. You may have seen it along, it's running parallel to 50 near Sandy Point. Ultimately, it will connect to Sandy Point. I don't know the completion date for that, but it's definitely there and under construction. There is another phase of South Shore Trail under construction, expected to be completed in December of 25. It's the section west of Maryland 3 that goes up to Sappington Station. And then 2 other phases of South Shore Trail that are like from Bestgate Road up towards Crownsville, those 2 phases are in design. Couple like a week ago, we got our first glance at a proposed location for the shared use path with the Bay Bridge. That's still being considered. So we were in a meeting with Queen Anne's and ourselves, and yeah, that looked promising on our end. We had a VR challenge on Monday. We were at, Sherry Matthews brought the virtual reality headset to the high school, along with the police were there as a Vision Zero engagement project on our end. So that was fun to watch the kids doing the headset in the Camaro. I don't really have any more to offer at this point. That's it.
It's plenty. Thanks so much.
I mean, of course, it's grant season, so we're furiously applying for several grants. Hopefully, one in particular was a Safe Routes to School coordinator, so we're excited to learn about that.
All right, thanks very much. We may have lost our City of Baltimore representative with Shayna. Is there anybody else from City of Baltimore here? Okay.
Yeah, there's no one else today.
Baltimore County is.
Hi there. Don't have a ton to share, but we had a great Bike to Work Day event in Towson. Thanks to Lillian from the BMC for always coming out and helping us with that. Yeah, it was really good turnout. And then as far as projects, we just wrapped up the feasibility report for our first Complete Streets project on Old Court Road. So we'll be moving into design now and go up to full design. So that's exciting. And then we're still working towards full design on our Northeast Trail over in White Marsh and also our West East Trail. And then we are close to having our first protected bike lane on Green Summit and Old Pimlico. So that's exciting as well. And I think that's probably all can.
Good to hear.
Yep.
Don't know that we have anybody from Carroll County. Is Claire is not here. Anybody from Carroll County here? Okay. Harford County?
Hi, this is Khadijah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, let me get my notes. So far we have a feasibility study for the US 40 shared use path from Aberdeen, the Aberdeen to Habity Grace, vice versa. And now we are going after 100% design money by way of the carbon reduction and TAP matched with MDOT. And so far, that's what's going on with us.
All right. Thank you. Chris, or somebody else from Howard County?
Yeah, thank you. I can jump in. Pat's here from Howard County as well, but I can provide the updates. So we have a public meeting tomorrow evening, actually, for our feasibility study for bicycle and pedestrian improvements on Montgomery Road. That's in the Elkridge area at the Elkridge Fire Hall tomorrow evening. I just dropped a link to the flyer. If anyone's interested in that, drop that in the chat. We're also working on quite a few segments of roadway for bike lanes through resurfacing, as we're getting into the resurfacing season with our DPW colleagues in Howard County. So we're looking at Tamar Drive, Old Columbia Road, Edenbrook Drive, and Guilford Road. So we've had public meetings for all those segments and finalizing the designs for adding bike lanes to those roadways with resurfacing. Also working on some updates to our APFO regulations. APFO is the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance. I think most jurisdictions probably have something similar with a similar name for the development regulations. And it's so there's an APFO committee that's been meeting over the last several months, and they just delivered their recommendations to the county council. So staff worked with that committee, and there's a couple of very hopeful, very interesting, very positive additions in terms of pedestrian improvements for offsite for developers through the APFO. So one is for them to make pedestrian crossing improvements at nearby signalized intersections, and the other is to improve ADA access to any existing bus stops that are nearby their development. Also working on, we've been working for a while on a bike wayfinding system. It's countywide, and we just installed our first pilot route in the Columbia area around Wad Lake area. So this is a color-coded system of routes that will go throughout Howard County. The first route is the indigo color. So we actually just got those signs installed last week and planning a ribbon cutting and ride opening for that and then we'll also roll out additional routes as time goes on. And then we've also kicked off our with MDOT, Elkridge was selected as a bicycle pedestrian priority area. So the Elkridge area is a new you call that BPA program, bicycle pedestrian priority area. So Shane's actually MDOT rep for that program, and they have consulting that support for that. So we just had our kickoff meeting, and we're excited about that. It's basically a planning exercise to evaluate the area of Elkridge for bicycle and pedestrian safety. That's all I had.
All right. Thank you, Chris. We are up to Queen Anne. Steve?
All right, thank you. Just continue to work on the South Island Trail, which is on Kent Island, south of US 5301. We're trying to extend that trail 2 miles. It's an existing about 6 mile trail, and if we extend it about 2 more miles, we'll get up to Route 5301. So that's in various stages. Some of it's planning, some of it's construction. And we hope to have a new section of that paved and open to the public by the end of the year. So that's going on. And then we also working on a feasibility study. Right now we have the Cross Island Trail, which runs from the Chesapeake Bay to the Kent Narrows. And we're looking at extending that about 4.5 miles to get all the way to the town of Queenstown. So the feasibility study to extend that cross county connector trail should be wrapped up this summer, and we look forward to having that in place and then going and pursuing grant funding to build it. So, yep. Thank you.
Great to hear. Thanks, Steve. We're up to MDE.
I don't really have a big update, just that the alternative transportation group at MDE also participated in Bike to Work Week last week. And that's all.
All right. Thank you, Catherine. MDP, looks like we have Brooks here.
Yeah, hi Eric. Yeah, we don't have anything additional to report.
Sorry, I missed what you said. You don't have anything to report?
Yeah.
All right. No worries. Maryland Highway Safety Office, Cynthia.
Hey everybody, Cynthia Spriggs. Brief. I was at a bunch of the Bike to Work events. So Annapolis, the first time I was down there, great job. We finished off barely before the storms rolled in over with Chris Etoff and crew in Howard County, and with Meg and Candice and crew from MDOT to SHA in the middle of the day. So it was a busy Friday, but it was a great Friday, mostly with weather holding out. I've been around the state for other different things as well, with different partners. So that's really the only Baltimore region. And then didn't hear Chris mention it, but I could have missed it. We actually will be ending out Bike Month, myself and Julie from our office, at their block bike around spring party at Colorburst Park on the 31st. So that'll end the month of May and all of the activities that have gone on. And then just gearing up for the summer and all that stuff to plan for the fall as we know it. We'll be talking about walking and rolling and biking to school before we all know it.
All right. Thank you, Cynthia. It was good to see you in person at that event. Let's see. Anybody from MTA here? I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm here, Albert. Yeah, I mean, we're basically just continuing to track all the local trail and bicycle pedestrian projects that could possibly affect our service. So I don't usually attend these meetings, but Brittany is out with her new baby, so I'm just glad to be here and listen to what's going on and stay plugged in.
Okay. Thanks for joining this meeting. Let's see. Shane from SHA, anything else you'd like to share?
No other updates.
Okay. And now TSO, Secretary's Office, Meg or Francine, anything else?
Yeah, I have some updates I can share, and then Francine, if you let me know if I miss anything. So yeah, I will echo all of the sentiments of a great Bike to Work Week, first of all. Also, if y'all have not already been subscribed, we have transferred over all of our mailing lists at TSO to GovDelivery. And so if you did not recently receive a newsletter from us, drop in the chat a way to join our active transportation mailing list. And the newsletter announced what Francine just put in the chat, or two of the exciting things that we announced. Our MDOT in Motion series is our new monthly webinar series. And on June 5th, we will be covering the great report we got from our Complete Streets Leadership Academy last year, where we did quick builds around the state. for bike ped safety, and exciting announcements at that webinar about what we're doing next. I won't steal Shane's thunder, but looking forward to what we're doing next with it. So I'll put the registration for that as well directly in the chat there. And then a couple people mentioned grants. The one grant that is still open is the Bikeways application, because the deadline was Memorial Day and someone on this call pointed that out. We extended it until close of business on the 27th. So you have one more workday to get those applications in. And then last but not least, we're still working on our statewide transportation trails plan, and that's expected to come out in August. But several of you on this call are going to get some emails from me about any trails you're working on utility corridors. That's going to be a recommendation from the plan, but it's some groundwork that we're trying to retrace and make sure, because so many counties are facing issues, that we have a good list of yeah, any barriers or opportunities to put trails on some of those corridors. So I think that's it. Francine, did I miss anything?
Nope, you covered it all, Meg. I put in the registration as well, so there are 2 opportunities to register for the 5th.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Last but not least, BMC. Anything, Charlene or Miriam?
We're in the process of working on the tip, so just wanted to highlight some of the bicycle and pedestrian projects that are going to be in the 2026 to 2029 tip. So there are 40 federally funded and regionally significant projects with bike lanes, recreational trails, and sidewalks, totaling $286.5 million in proposed funding. Some of these projects include 27 bridge rehabilitation projects, which would include adding sidewalks, indoor bike compatible shoulders, Vision Zero action planning in Baltimore City, as we heard about, sections of the Patapsco Regional Greenway, and a new shared use path to Masonville Cove, the Masonville Cove connector. So the comment period for the tip is open right now until, I believe it's June 15th. Projects are submitted by the local jurisdictions as well as state agencies, and the public comments will help BRTB members to have a sense of, public sentiment on the tip. If you wanted to get more in-depth info about the projects in the tip, we have a public input page and a story map that I can drop into the chat as well. And then you can ask questions now, or you can follow up with Indemazi or Anna Marshall if you had any questions about things. That was all I had to share today.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Charlene. So we're at the point where other business can be shared. If anybody on the BPAG has something to share. Anything out there? Okay. Hearing none, just want to announce that our next meeting will be July 16th, 2025. Same place, and just wish everybody well. Thanks for joining today. Be safe out there, and yeah, great to hear about all the projects happening. So thank you very much.